Okay. Hopefully you could hear the music. That's something I'm experimenting with as well. So, anybody who's been with my channel for long enough, obviously it's only been a few weeks, but realizes that it's a big work in progress. So, but all that being said, thank you everybody for joining. I'm gonna let a few people get in before I really get into things, but either way it goes, folks will be able to kind of come in and, or I mean, I'm gonna keep the recording here towards the end. So yeah, bear with me here. Okay. Okay. So as far as this video, um, it's going to be exactly what it's named. It's going to be back to basics. And one of the big things that I'm going to start out with is a little bit of confession and a little bit of repentance. um, that last video kind of ran long and ended a little abrupt, and there's a lot of reason for that. Um, I'm gonna get transparent here, and yeah, long story short, I was my focus was off. Yeah, my focus was off last week with that video at the time of that video, and um, I kind of got, I guess, carried away with the with things that really weren't important. One one of which was views. Who was viewing, who was live, or excuse me, yeah, who was watching at the time, and things like that. And then two, um, a little bit of bitterness. Um, what is that? Well, I mean, what do I mean by that? Well, um, as you've probably seen in some of my previous videos, or if you've tuned into this channel, and I haven't deleted them, even my last week's video, it's still available on my channel. But I was in a series, my journey from Christianity to the truth, and in that, um, my intent, especially originally, was to um, talk a little bit about me and kind of where I'm coming from and why I'm where I'm at, and why I'm here. But hearing this confession and repentance, um, my focus kind of changed with bitterness. If you've heard my testimony, and if you kind of looked at some of the previous videos, um, as I started to read, and as I started to change, and as I started to grow in my understanding of the word, um, some people closest to me, um, did some things that were not right. They kind of turned on me, um, and long story short, created a lot of conflict in my life. Um, but that being said, um, kind of with that kind of brought on some bitterness with me, and some frustration with me, and ergo, I brought that to my channel and my teachings, and what I'm sharing, what I'm sharing with you, and also how I'm sharing with you, because my focus was more on a lot of those negative things and a lot of those in reality, a lot of those videos were talking about some of and a lot of the lies that um, are rampant within the church. But I mean, the entire time, my focus, definitely a big part of the time, my focus was actually on those lies as opposed to sharing the truth. So, ergo, the title of this video, I'm going to get back to basics. I'm sitting there telling you that, um, talking about how everybody else is lying, but um, one of the things that um, I've never done is bought anything because a competitor is bad. If I'm going to a car dealership and my salesperson is trying to sell me based off of someone else's product and how bad it is, chances are I'm probably not going to buy that product because you haven't told me anything about what you have to offer. And that being said, that's where my focus needs to be and is going to be going forward. And will there be some conversation about Christianity and other things? There may be. There probably going to be some things to address, and I'll address those accordingly. But that being said, moving forward on my channel, first of all, I want to move within the purpose of the Most High and the purpose of His truth. And that being said, I need to focus on that as opposed to focusing on the lies. So, um, ergo my repentance and um, ergo my repentance and uh, from some of my previous videos, especially the last one. And I did leave that up. I considered deleting it, but you know, in transparency, hey, I'm gonna be real. So you're gonna get the real from me, and that's part of the real. And so that being said, let's go. One of the pieces I'm going to talk about is I'm going to talk on Deuteronomy 28, but I'm also going to give some context on it. And and here's one thing that I'm also going to do going forward is I'm going to use my different resources. I realize that I have strengths and I have things I'm good at. I have things that are part of my purpose, and other people have others. So, I'm going to give. Uh, in some cases, I'm going to actually defer to some other channels, some other teachings to hopefully help you out as far as um, the ability to kind of get further into details of some of the things that I'm talking about. Um, Deuteronomy 28 talks about. Well, let's give some background. So the nation of Yasharel, of course, at this point, and to be honest, I will be in some future weeks, kind of getting more in details into some of this history, but I'm going to kind of give some paraphrasing or some summarizing to kind of get to where we are today. Um, that being said, so the nation of Yasharel, as some people today call Israel, but the name is Yasharel. The nation of Yasharel, when the Most High actually freed them from Egypt and led them into the Promised Land, um, or excuse me, this is to be honest, this is actually even before they get into the Promised Land. So this is actually still in the wilderness on that journey. And actually, it's Moses or Moshe that's actually talking to them at this point, because Moshe never made it into the promised land himself. So that being said, it's kind of sets the stage for what is going on here. So a lot of Deuteronomy is actually recapping where the Most High has brought the nation from. So of course, freed them from Egypt, took them through the sea, and they wandered through the wilderness for 40 years. And with that, um, prior to crossing into the promised land, the Most High made a covenant through Moses and to the people that they agreed to. And it was in following the laws, and it actually in like 26, 27, 20, the 26th and the 27th chapter of Deuteronomy, it talks about a lot of those laws. Of course, Leviticus, you can get a lot more in details with the laws as well, but Deuteronomy does a lot of recapping all of that. So now, in recapping all of those laws, he then goes into the benefits and the curses that can go along, the blessings and the curses that can go along with obedience or disobedience of following the laws. So, and that's where we pick up with in Deuteronomy 28. So, I guess without further ado, let's go ahead and get into that. Here, give me a second. I'm going to go ahead and pull up where we are, where we're picking up. And I've gotten a little more practice with Blue Letter Bible, which is something I kind of struggled with a little bit in my last video. So we are going to go ahead and get there. And here we go. Okay, so here we are with Deuteronomy. I'm going to go skip over to the 28th chapter. I was reading ahead of time, so here we are back at Deuteronomy 28. And I touched on this a little bit in one of my previous videos, and it says, and it shall come to pass, if thou shalt hearken diligently unto the voice of Yahuwah Elohim, aka the Lord thy God, and I use his actual name. So when I see these, I'll actually say the actual names. So to observe and do all his commandments, which I command thee this day, that Yahuwah Elohim will set thee on high above all the nations of the earth. And all these blessings shall come upon thee and overtake thee, if thou shalt hearken to the voice of Yahuwah Elohim. And so here you are coming with the first couple of verses, and you see that in those verses, it's setting a prerequisite to everything that follows. Okay, so and you'll hear in some songs that there's a lot of desire to start at verse 3, because if you start at verse 3 and forget verse 1 and 2, it's all the fun stuff. Blessed shalt thou be in the city, and blessed shalt thou be in the field. Blessed shall be the fruit of thy body, and the fruit of thy ground, and the fruit of thy cattle, and increase of thine kind, and the flocks of thy sheep. Again, that all is fun, and if you get that and all these blessings in and of themselves, it's still pretty cool. But the problem is, if you start at verse 3, you lose out on context. And one of the big pieces that I'll try to, as best I can, get into is context. When you read the Bible, context is everything. If you cut out what comes before something or what comes after it and try to make your own story out of it, first of all, it's a lie. But we'll start with that. But secondly, you're missing out on getting the truth, getting what the writers and the Most High in this case is actually trying to say. And if you don't care about that, inevitably you care more about what you're trying to get out of it as opposed to what the Most High is actually trying to speak or teach, and the message that he is actually trying to portray. So that being said, we have to get the context of everything that we're reading. So that being said, let's start with verse 1 and verse 2. It says, if thou should hearken diligently unto the voice of the Lord, or of Yahuwah Elohim to observe all his commandments, which I command thee this day, that Yahuwah Elohim will set thee on high above all nations of the earth. And all these blessings shall come unto thee and overtake thee if thou shalt hearken to the voice of the Lord of Yahuwah Elohim. So, there goes the prelude. And so we'll go ahead and read on. Blessed shall thou be in the city, blessed shall thou be in the field, blessed shall be the fruit of thy body, blessed shall be the fruit of thy ground, and the fruit of thy cattle, and the increase of thy kind, and the flocks of thy sheep. Blessed shall be thy baskets and thy store. Blessed shall thou be, or blessed shall thou be when thou comest in. Blessed shall thou be when thou goest out. Blessed shall thine enemies, or shall the Lord, Yahuwah Elohim shall cause thine enemies to rise up against thee, to be smitten before thy face, and they shall come out against thee one way and flee before thee 7 ways. Now, all of this in the within the nation of Yasharel, and as you read through the Bible, you'll actually see a lot of this and see some of the battles that they won, despite not having the odds, because they were in obedience to Yahuwah Elohim, and and this is what he's saying. He says this with his covenant to them, and if you obey me, it's going to be good for you. It's going to be smooth sailing. And again, this is Deuteronomy 28. So if you have your Bible, if you can, read through this yourself, because there's some good stuff in here as far as the blessings. Now, again, coming to the context, it's blessings of obedience. Now, in understanding that there are blessings of obedience, and there is a precursor to these blessings. Well, let's see how far the blessings go down. Well, to verse 14, because as you see, just even in the title, verse 15 starts the consequences, and as some people also call it, the curses of disobedience. So you have consequences of disobedience. So you have verse 1 through 14 that is actually talking about blessings if you obey Yahuwah Elohim. So that being said, first of all, let's start with this. It's like, obey him and you got it all good and fine. Now, of course, that's not the end of it. Although oftentimes we like to stop there, because it's like, hey, we like to stop at all the good stuff. But the problem is that's not the end of it. The Most High will bless obedience, but he will also curse disobedience. And this is the part of the covenant, and they will agree to this. Now, as you see, this stops at 15, or this starts at 15, as far as the curses, and we're going to read that verse 15 right there. So it says, "But it shall come to pass, if thou wilt not hearken unto the voice of Yahuwah Elohim, to observe all his commandments and his statutes, which I command thee this day, that all these curses shall come upon thee and overtake thee. Cursed shall thou be in the city, and cursed shall thou be in the field. Cursed shall thy basket and thy store." Now, if you look at those first 2 curses, they actually they go along with, are pretty much the exact opposite of what happens with the blessings. So if you look at the blessings and you look at the curses, especially the first few, they mirror each other but are exact opposites. So he'll bless everything if you're obedient. Those things that he did bless, if you are disobedient, it says he will curse, starting in verse 15. So now, with that understanding, we understand that starting at verse 15, we're looking at curses. So let's go ahead and scroll on down. Let's see how far down these curses go. So we have 15 verses of blessings, but now we go all the way down to verse 68 as far as the curses. So that being said, obedience is great. Disobedience, yeah. There's a lot to be said about that. So, again, this is a covenant. So now, if you have read the Bible, and if you haven't, I mean, again, that's something that I'll be walking through, um, in the near future and throughout these weeks, because I really want to take you through the Bible and through the actual story of it to get the fullness of the understanding and the context. But that being said, this is an agreement. This is a contract. This is a constitution that was set forth from Yahuwah Elohim, from Yahuwah, the Most High of the Bible. He actually set these terms with the nation of Yasharel and said, if you do this, here we are. If you disobey it, here you are. Well, if you read on, and I'm going to be a spoiler, but we will still be getting to that. But if you read on, you'll see that the nation of Yasharel, they started out kind of in obedience, but it did not take them very long to actually move to disobedience. But when they were in obedience, things went well. You'll hear pretty soon, right after Deuteronomy, you'll get into Joshua, and as he's as he's leading Yasharel into the promised land. Everybody, and again, I'm saying everybody. I'm talking as if all I'm talking to are Christians or people who've read it. So I'll try to do my best not to make general assumptions. But that being said, Joshua, or Yahusha, which is very interesting. His actual name is pronounced Yahusha. And if you know, the Son of the Most High is also Yahusha. Same name, actually. But Yahusha, when he actually was the one who actually led the nation of Yasharel after Moses died. So when Moses died, he actually handed the reins to Yahusha, or Joshua. And in his leadership, there were plenty of victories that happened. They actually went to war against many nations, and with what normally would be lesser of odds, and won plenty of battles in that process. But even in that, there were some situations to where there was disobedience even within that. Like, is it Nacor? I forgot the one. It was one of the battles where, and the name is missing me, but the context doesn't. The context is all the same. But there was a battle in which originally everyone was in obedience, but part of the command of the Most High was to take nothing. He said, go in, conquer the land, but don't take any of the plunder. And what happened was, this person, Nacor, it starts with an N if I remember right. But this person, he actually took some of the treasures from the land. Well, and he had them. So next time they go into battle, next thing you know is they are getting their butts kicked, lose a lot of people in that process. And Yahusha, then he's like, praising the Most High, and he's like, what's going on? And Yahusha, or he told Yahusha to cast lots, and inevitably they were able to figure out that this one man was disobedient, which caused them to lose out on his favor. Well, needless to say that once that happened, he suffered the wrath of the Most High. He was killed and his family was wiped out. But ergo, in obedience, the Most High blessed and blessed beyond measure. But in disobedience, it was the exact opposite. So now let's get into some of these curses. So many of these curses have actually happened. Okay. So we can talk about some of them. Cursed shall the fruit of thy body be, cursed shall the land, or the fruit of thy land, the increase of thy kind, and the flocks of thy sheep. Now, if you read in Isaiah, you read in Jeremiah, you read in Ezekiel, you read in a lot of the prophets, they're actually speaking curses upon the nation. Well, although these curses that they're speaking of were brought directly from God or from Yahuwah, these curses were inevitably the very same curses that you see here coming up. And so a lot of the things that actually helped or that actually happened to Yasharel throughout the Old Testament, throughout the Old Testament and New Testament and beyond, all derived from Deuteronomy, and actually and actually are literally reiterating the very things that he said would happen. And so now let's get into a few of these. So thy sons and thy daughters shall be given unto other people, and that thine eyes shall look and fail longing for them all the day long, and there shall be no might in thine hand. Well, of course, the beginning of that verse, it's pretty clear that of what's going on, but I want to touch on the last part of that verse. There shall be no might in thine hand. Well, up to this point, the nation of Yasharel, they were winning battles, and it didn't matter who you put in front of them. When they were in the will of the Most High, it didn't matter who you would put in front of them. It didn't matter what the odds were. They were literally whooping everybody. So when it says there shall be no might in thine own hand, it's like these folks are going to take your kids and there ain't going to be nothing you can do about it. So there's that. But look at this too. It says the fruit of thy land and all thy labors shall a nation which thou knowest not eat up, and thou shalt be only oppressed and crushed away. So basically what it's saying is you're going to be working. You're going to be working. You're going to be laboring. And a nation which they don't know anything about at this point will benefit from their labors. But you as a people will not, because you're going to be oppressed. They're going to benefit. You get to do all the work. They get to reap all the rewards. You're going to be oppressed and not benefit anything of your labors. So as we're building this up, there's a lot of things that are going on here that that we are going to put together. Now look at this one right here, verse 28-37. And thou shalt be an astonishment, a proverb, and a byword among all the nations, whither the Elohim shall lead thee. So where that they're going to be sent, the people will be known by a byword. Okay. You know what? I'm kind of interested in this right myself. I talked a little bit about this in some of the previous videos. So one of the cool things about Blue Letter Bible is you actually get to it has some of these additional tools that come with the scriptures. Okay, so as you're reading, You can look at the verse, but you can actually get into more details. So you click into these tools, and you actually get to see, of course, this is the actual text and how it was written. And you actually get to look at some of the words. So these are the words. So this is the text. This is inevitably sounding it out using alphabet bit. But let's see. So with that right there, we're going to look at this word, this byword, this word for a byword. Okay, and a byword. So Shino. Okay, and so this is um, the definition of what that's referring to. So let's see. A sharp word, sharp cutting word, a taunt, a gibe. I'm not sure what that word means, but these other words are, um, the definitions of what it's saying. It's pretty clear. The sharp word, a sharp cutting word, it's a taunt. Okay, so basically, you're going to be known by uh, a byword, some type of a taunt, some type of a sharp cutting word that is, um, let's just say, uh, not good. So, but that's how you're going to be known in the nations that you're sent to. Hmm, that's interesting. Okay, we're gonna go further. Thou shalt beget sons and daughters, but thou shalt not enjoy them, for they shall go into captivity. Okay, interesting, but I'm going to keep going. So, talked a little bit about verses 45 and 46. Um, so, moreover, all these curses shall come upon thee and shall pursue thee and overtake thee till thou be destroyed, because thou hearkenest not unto the voice of Yahuwah Elohim, to keep his commandments and his statutes which he commanded thee. And they shall be upon thee for a sign and for a wonder, and upon thy seed forever. So, um, inevitably, what that's saying is these curses, you're going to have them, but more specifically in verse 46, it says that you'll be able to look upon your descendants. You'll be able to identify them not by the blessings, but by these curses. Here it says, they shall be upon thee for a sign and a wonder, and upon thy seed forever. Okay, so inevitably you can know your seed, or you will be able to know the seed of Yasharel by these curses. Okay, so down the line, how will you know them? By these curses. So let's see, and it says perpetual, evermore, and so yeah, so that's what it says. So there's a lot of stuff that sounds very familiar, but I'm gonna fast forward here a little bit, and we're gonna start at verse 64. It says, "And Yahuwah Elohim shall scatter thee among all people from one end of the earth even unto the other, and there thou shalt serve other gods which neither thou or thy fathers have known, even wood and stone." Okay, so here's the thing. It says, "He shall scatter thee." Scatter thee, or scattering. You hear about that quite a bit throughout the prophets, and actually, you'll hear about it in Isaiah. You'll hear about it in Jeremiah. You'll hear about it in Ezekiel, and all of this stuff. It talks about the children of Yasharel being scattered. Now, not only does it just say that they're scattered, it says they're scattered from one end of the earth to the other. So if it just said scattered, um, you know, it could easily be a lot of different things, and to be honest, even a lot of different people. But very specifically, it says scattered from one end of the earth even unto the other. Okay. Um, and there thou shalt serve other gods, which neither thou or thy fathers have known, even wood and stone. So now let's so first of all, that being said, looking at this whole scattering, okay, biblically, when did that happen? Well, it's easy to say that they were scattered in when they went to Babylon. You could say that they were scattered when the tribes separated into the northern and the southern kingdom. You can say that they were scattered. There are a few times that they were sent to other lands, and so they were scattered then. But it doesn't just say that they were scattered. It says they were scattered among all people, and it says from one end of the earth even unto the other. So the New Testament, yes, they were scattered, but when they were scattered primarily within the Roman Empire. And if you look at the ministry of Yahusha, he literally was walking around to the scattered sheep of Yasharel. When Yahusha taught, he taught to the scattered sheep of Yasharel. So yes, they were scattered, but they were all within the Roman Empire. But here's what it says: it doesn't just say that they were scattered; it says from one end of the earth to the other. That being said, when did that happen? There is only one time that happened, and I'm going to straight out say this: there's only one time that this could possibly be in history. And to be frank, there's only one people that this can be that fits all of these curses with history. Some of these curses actually happened in 70 AD. Some of these curses happened in the time of the prophets. But especially when you get to 64, that narrows things down drastically. It says you will be scattered among all people from one end of the earth even unto the other. So before I even get to that, it says verse 68. And Yahuwah shall bring thee into Egypt again, with ships, by the way whereof I spake unto thee. So, here in when it refers to Egypt, it does say, okay. By the way, in Egypt. Sorry, I went too far. So what this is actually referring to in the when it talks about Egypt, there's context here, because what he's saying, and to fully get what he's saying, okay, because there was when Yahuwah led them out of Egypt, he told them that you would not be going back here. The context here in what is called Egypt and why it's called Egypt is referring into the land of captivity. So it's saying that we're going to be going back into that I'm going to send you back into captivity again. Okay, but this time it says that when I send you into captivity, I'm going to send you in ships. Okay, so now let's get some context here. Okay, on what the world looked like back then. Okay. Let's look at the old Roman Empire. See if we can find a good map that actually gives context to what the Roman Empire looked like. So the Roman Empire was this right here. Here we go. We are going to this is in, I think this is Chrome. Yeah. Okay. So this is the Roman Empire. This is the Roman Empire at that time in the Bible. Okay. So inevitably, and this is where they say the land of Yasharel was. So pretty much you could walk anywhere within the nation or within the Roman Empire from Yasharel, from what they said, from where they say it was. So, case in point, why would you need ships, especially to displace an entire nation of people? Well, cheat code, you don't. They didn't need ships to spread them about within the Roman Empire. So, with that being said, what is this actually talking about? Okay. This was not talking about when they were sent to Rome. This is not talking about when they were sent to Babylon. We can even look up Babylon. Of what here, let's even go there. Let's see. Yeah, Babylon would have been in this area over here. So in this area over here, excuse me. Hopefully you can see my mouse. But yes, in this area over here is where Babylon would be. Okay? Or Mesopotamia. So the Babylonian Empire with like Nebuchadnezzar. Again, also something you would not have needed ships to scatter them to. So I ask again, what is this referring to when it says in ships? So that being said, it is not referring to a time in biblical with it when it is not referring to a time within biblical times. It is referring to another time, and only one time in known history was a single people, a certain group of people, scattered from one end of the earth to the other. And that is the transatlantic slave trade and the Arab slave trade. That is the only time in history where a single group of people was scattered from one end of the earth to the other. And actually, if you look at it today, it doesn't matter where you are in the world, there's a certain people that can be found there. And again, this is not my words. This is not my words. I'm not making this up. This is not something that I came up with. This is scripture. And the Bible itself says You will be scattered from among you. He will scatter you among all people from one end of the earth even unto the other. Now, and it says, he shall bring you into Egypt. Of course, that again, that's referring to the land of captivity, again by ships. By way thereof I spake unto thee, thou shalt see it no more again. And there ye shall be sold unto your enemies for bondmen and bondwomen, and no man shall buy you. Now, what is that referring to? So, well, here's the thing: you shall be sold into slavery, but not just slavery. Okay, with slavery, especially here in the Americas, um, inevitably, when you are sold into slavery, there is a bond that was attached to you. And if you look at the bond market today, um, that is where it originated. So there was a bond that was attached to you. Okay. Now, if your bond was paid, you are freed. Okay. So your freedom could be paid for. Shalom, shalom, shalom. But yes, so your bond could be paid for. So that being said, it's saying that you will be sold by your enemies for bondmen and bondwomen, and no man shall buy you. So it's saying you'll be sold into slavery, and nobody's going to pay for your freedom. Okay, and so with that being said, who is this talking about? So who else could it be talking about? Who else could it be talking about? And I'll let you answer that yourself. There's only one people that literally has fulfilled every single one of these curses. And it is the descendants of the transatlantic and the Arab slave trade. Now, so now let's go back to some of these other verses. They make a lot more sense because we were talking about a byword. What verse was that in? It says, verse 28 and 37 says, and thou shalt become an astonishment and a proverb and a byword amongst all nations, whither Yahuwah shall lead thee. So now, a byword. What did we say that meant? Okay, going back, a sharp word, a sharp cutting word, a taunt, a jibe. Okay, so can you think of something that the descendants of the transatlantic slave trade? I'm here in America. There is very much a byword or two that we're known as. I'm not going to say it on YouTube because that'll get me canceled real quick. But we all know what it is. We're known by a byword. And it doesn't matter what nation that we go into, we're looked upon as less, and we're looked upon as different than the other folks of those nations. And says, a stranger that is within thee shall get up above thee and very high, and thou shalt become very low. Where are we? He shall lend to thee, and thou shalt not lend at him. He shall be thy head, and thou shalt be the tail. Where are we everywhere we go? The descendants of the transatlantic slave trade. We are the bottom of every nation. And even those of us that are on the continent, they're still suffering these curses. Look at the Congo right now. They're still in slavery. Look at Brazil. Look at look at Central America. Look at those islands. You know what? Let's. I mean, if we want to talk about one end of the earth to the other, let's look at random islands out in the middle of the ocean. Let's pull up. Let's pull up Solomon Islands. Solomon Islands. Actually, let's pull it up on maps.google.com. So we're going to pull it up on Google Maps, and we're going to look at the people of Solomon Islands. First of all, we're going to look at where it is. So Solomon Islands, way out in the middle of nowhere, out by Australia. So Solomon Islands. So we're gonna get in there and we're gonna look at some of these photos, specifically one showing the people of the Solomon Islands. Of course, Google doesn't want to show that. I've looked at this in the past. I might have to Google it. Oh, that's a tourist. Okay, we'll make this a little bit easier. Citizens of Solomon Islands. Now let's look at images. Oh, the citizens of Solomon Islands. This is out in the middle of nowhere. What do they look like? From one end of the earth even into the other. Those folks out in the Solomon Islands have a very familiar look about them. He looks like a cousin of mine, but I digress. Okay, so again, let's look at citizens of Panama. Look at some images. The rainbow, but look at her. Look at her. Look at that nose. That looks very familiar. Citizens of Panama. You got some of us. Ooh, interesting. Citizens of Brazil. I mean, I can keep going with this. Citizens of Brazil. These are people all over the earth, and somehow there are some similarities about all of them. The transatlantic slave trade literally sent folks from one end of the earth to the other to recently explored territories so that they can profit at the labor while the people who were doing the labor would not profit. And so let's go back in here again. Where does it say? Let's go back. Said. Well, let's go back to verse 32. Your sons and thy sons and thy daughters shall be given unto another people, and thine eyes shall look and fail for longing with them all day and all the day long. Now, looking into that, the transatlantic slave trade. Okay, actually, at the very beginning of it, many of the people who were brought in ships were children, and I'll get more into the detail of that history, and there's a YouTube channel called Gates of Holda that has a pretty solid series and talks about a lot of that as well. But one of the pieces to understand is the Spanish Inquisition and Portugal, which is actually the beginnings of this transatlantic slave trade. Basically, it was saying what ended up happening is the um, for people who didn't convert to Christianity were forced to inevitably give up their kids, and their kids were literally taken from them, and ergo the beginning of the transatlantic slave trade. So their people were shipped from them to West Africa, which further shipped to a lot of these islands in the middle of nowhere. Well, it was in the middle of nowhere to them, but a lot of these islands in Jamaica, a lot of these islands in what we now call the Bahamas, and the Americas, Central Americas, Southern Mexico, Brazil, and of course to the U.S. People were shipped all over the world, um, and a big piece of them, and actually more than half of them, were children. There's a website called slavevoyages.org. I might even get into that at some point, but this is coming. This is coming with prophecy right here. This is not my words. This is the Bible that actually talks about verse 46, how you can identify your seed. Says you'll be able to identify your seed forever by these curses, and you look at these curses, and they meet a certain people. Okay, so I'm actually gonna pause here, but as bad as this sounds, in knowing that this is us, trust me, this is not the end of it. I'll give you a sneak peek. Let's in chapter 29, I'll get more into that going forward. In chapter 30, I'll get more into that as well. But in that, a sneak peek, it says that they are going to fall into these curses in chapter 29, chapter 30. It actually talks about the redemption. And I really can't wait to get to that because, long story short, this is not forever, and this is not the end. But but that being said, I've talked about a lot tonight, and we are going to break this down and get a lot more into detail from here. But for today, we're going to call that a wrap. That being said, thank you for tuning into my channel. I appreciate you for watching. If this is something that's blessed to you, please go ahead and definitely like my video. Please go ahead and share it with others. Please subscribe to my channel, No Longer Vain, on YouTube. If you're watching this on Facebook, please go to my YouTube channel as well and go ahead and subscribe, No Longer Vain. And I will try to continue to post on Wednesdays. I'm also considering switching the day, but for right now, plan on next Wednesday, and going forward, we'll see where that goes from there. But I'll try to let you know ahead of time if I do plan to make that change. Also, please make sure that you click the bell and check for notifications. So therefore, if I go live at an unscheduled time, or if I switch things up, you'll be able to see those changes at that point. All that being said, thank you guys. I love you. Blessings in the Most High, and you have a good one.